In this video, we'll be building this 38-inch by 5-foot cedar coffee table, and on the display in the store we call this the chunk. So let's get started. So these boards that we're using to make this table out of started life as 6x6 cedar posts. These are reclaimed boards. They used to be fence posts, believe it or not. We've cut them in half and milled them up, and we've actually made a table out of the other half of these. These are some leftover boards that we had in the shop. The other table we made was for a customer, and this one we're building as for a display in the store. This is James's project. You can see me working in the background. I'm actually working on the walnut table that was our last video that I just posted. James was making this cedar chunk table the same time I was building that table. So he got these boards cut to rough length. They're probably about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. Well, actually, now that I think about it, they're quite a bit longer than they need to be right here. He's getting this panel glued up, and after we get it out of clamps, he'll cut it down to the final length of 60 inches. If you've already watched some of our videos, you know we like to use these small 6-inch clamps just to hold these boards in place while we get the pipe clamps hooked up. And as soon as the pipe clamps are tightened up, those small clamps will come off there. Now these boards, for some reason, a few of them were a little thicker than the other ones, so James is picking those out and getting them ran through the planer one more time to get them all the same thickness. And after, he's going to glue 2 panels up like this, and those are going to become our legs. This is a pretty simple build, but it's very cool when we get done with it. Love the look of this table. It's been a very popular table in our store. We've sold it several times now. Now this is the next day. The tabletop is out of clamps. Yesterday, while it was still in clamps, James took some time and poured epoxy, filled knot holes, and any other imperfections in the tabletop. So he's getting that sanded off today, and he's also getting all the boards smoothed out and evened out. So he'll spend some time with the belt sander getting the extra epoxy off and getting those boards flattened out to each other. Now he's going to use a track saw to get this table cut to length. And somewhere along the lines I edited it out, but he used a large square to get that track saw squared up to the edges of the table, and then he'll measure from that end to the other side and make marks on both sides to that way both ends are parallel. But then he's also going to double check that with the square just to make sure he's still square. Which, if the other end is square, that should be square, but we always like to double check. And I don't know if you noticed earlier, but that track saw blade does not quite reach through there. So he had to come back with a pull saw and finish that cut up. And every woodworker's favorite pastime, more sanding. Now he's got the legs out of clamps and doing the exact same thing with those, just getting them smoothed out. And we'll super fast forward this section here. He's using a flat edge there, just trying to get those a little flatter with that big sander. Now I think we missed recording it, but one end he got a good straight cut with the track saw, and then we used a table saw to get the other side parallel, and got the correct dimension with that. Just it's easier to get both of them the same that way. Now he's doing a little figuring to make a tenon. He's going to make a tenon on the bottom of this leg, or on the top of this leg, and then we'll come back with a router, which you'll see in a minute, and make a mortise on the bottom side of that tabletop. So he's going to use a dado stack here in the table saw to cut his tenons on those legs. And you could do this with a single blade. It's just going to take you quite a bit longer. I think he put enough in there that's about 3/4 of an inch, and his tenon, if I remember correctly, was an 1.25 inches. So he'll have to make several passes to get that tenon cut. And what he's doing right there, that is a cutoff. Whenever he was cutting the tabletop to length earlier, these are cutoffs, and he was using those to fine-tune the height of the blades to make sure his cuts are good for this tenon. Because when you're cutting a tenon like this, you're cutting both sides, so any movement you make to that blade gets doubled. So if you need to raise it just a little bit, every bit you raise it, once you cut on both sides of that tenon, you're doubling that height. So it's always good to use a piece of scrap to get that dialed in before you start cutting on your final piece. And it looks like he's still dialing it in a little bit. Yeah, he cut the shoulders off. I believe he just used that pull saw to cut the two ends of that tenon off, so there's a little bit of a shoulder there on the ends. And we like to use two separate squares to get this leg set up in place, and that way we can use those same squares to set up the leg on the other side, and they'll both be in the same spot. So he used that smaller square on the sides, and he's got the larger square that he uses on the end. And then he's going to trace that tenon with a pencil. Now before we get out the router, he's going to use the track saw to hog that hole out, and then he's just going to finish it up with the router. But most of that he's going to get out with the track saw. And what he's doing here, he's put a line on the end of his tabletop here. He measured down how deep he wants this mortise to go, and then he's just lining up the depth of the saw there with that line he drew on the end. anytime we're doing a mortise and tenon, we like to the mortise needs to be a little deeper. So if you have some extra glue in there, or there's some sawdust, whatever, it has a place to go. So if our tenons are 1.25 inches, our mortise is going to be 1.5 inches. So he's just making multiple passes here with the track saw and hogging out, the extra waste there in the middle. Then he'll break it out with a chisel. Yeah, he's just cleaning up and finishing up that mortise with the router there. The ends of that mortise are round from that router. So instead of squaring them up, we're just knocking the corners off of our tenon. I found that to be a lot easier. He just uses a chisel to knock them off, and then cleans it up a little bit. Now he's going to spend a little time fine tuning this thing. He'll put his tenon up there, see where he's at. He might even trace it a little bit, and then clean up his mortise a little bit more until he gets it to fit just right. And when he got done, they were perfect fits. It was nice. But to get that nice fit, it takes a little bit of time. And there it is. That's a nice fit. Now, I came along in the middle of James' project and decided to put a board. This is something we added after the fact. To put this board, mortise and tenon, between the legs, and we did a through tenon. And I actually did that, and I didn't get it recorded on film, so sorry about that. But so I cut the mortises in both those legs, made that board to go between them with tenons on each end. Now, as far as the building goes, this thing's pretty much done. Just have quite a bit of sanding to do. We need to come back and soften the edges with the router with a small round over bit. We get all that done. We get finish on the table, and that's it. It's a simple build. I mean, you've got two big mortise and tenons, and the mortise and tenons for that middle board that I put in there. We also put our adjustable feet. We put our adjustable feet on just about every piece of furniture we build, and I don't believe we got that on video either. But this did get the adjustable feet. They add a half an inch, uh, unless you inset them, which I've seen some people do. But I actually like to have that half inch on the bottom of my furniture. It just it keeps it a half inch up off the ground. But so we always take that into consideration when we're figuring the lengths of our legs and whatnot. So James just has a couple issues here with this tabletop, and he's putting some sawdust and glue in those voids. He has some cedar sawdust and glue, and I honestly can't tell where he did that. It matched up really well. This is a great project. It's a fairly simple build, and it's a very cool, pretty piece of furniture when you get done with it. We don't have on film put and finish on it. We used Vermont Natural Coatings flat finish on it. And here's the project all done. Please like and subscribe our channel. And if you have any comments or questions about anything, feel free to leave those in the comments, and I'll definitely get back to you. Uh, Thanks for watching.